Pam Bondi walked onto Stephen Colbert's stage, her navy blue dress standing out against the vibrant set of The Late Show. The former Florida Attorney General wore a confident smile, concealing the tension hanging in the air as millions watched. From home. Just moments earlier, Colbert had introduced her with a biting remark. "Tonight we have Trump's defender who seems to have forgotten her oath to the Constitution." The liberal audience erupted in laughter and applause while Bondi's jaw visibly tightened. Colbert, with his trademark smirk and sharp suit, expected another easy dismantling of a Trump ally. But Bondi, bolstered by decades of legal experience and firm conviction, saw this as her opportunity to change the narrative on national television. She hadn't come to be a target. She came to fight back. What followed left Colbert momentarily speechless, the audience gasping and social media ablaze. This wasn't just an awkward segment. It was the night Pam Bondi flipped the script on one of late night's biggest names. The studio lights shone down on Colbert as he delivered his monologue, cracking jokes at the expense of conservative politicians, to the roaring approval of his audience. At 59, he had transitioned from the Colbert Report to become a leading voice in mainstream political satire, beloved by liberal viewers across the country. His show was trending again, his energy high as he introduced his guest. She served as Florida's Attorney General, defended Trump during his first impeachment, and recently claimed the 2020 election had irregularities. Please welcome, if you can, Pam Bondi. The audience responded with a mix of claps, murmurs, and scattered boos as Bondi entered. At 56, Bondi carried the composure of someone seasoned in high-stakes litigation. Her blonde hair framed a calm expression as she entered what many conservatives viewed as a hostile arena. She wasn't just a Trump supporter. She was a former prosecutor who had taken on human trafficking and major drug crimes before becoming Florida's first female attorney general. More recently, her vocal stance on election integrity had drawn criticism and made her a recurring target for comedians like Colbert. For him, this was a chance to energize his base ahead of the midterms. For her, it was a rare opportunity to voice conservative perspectives on a progressive platform. Eyes across the political spectrum were watching. They shook hands, the tension instantly apparent. Colbert's smile lacked warmth. Bondi's handshake was unwavering. "Pam, thanks for stepping into the, lion's den," Colbert began, adding air quotes to the phrase as the audience chuckled. "I go anywhere to speak the truth, Stephen, even here," Bondi replied with cool confidence. The crowd responded with a surprised mix of laughter and ooze. Colbert raised an eyebrow. This might not be the easy segment he expected. Viewers leaned forward as the interview took shape, sensing a clash of political and rhetorical heavyweights. "So, Pam," Colbert began, leaning in, "you defended a president impeached twice. You stood outside courtrooms claiming election fraud with no evidence. How do you reconcile that with your oath as Attorney General?" The audience erupted, and Colbert grinned. He had thrown his first punch, framing her as a hypocrite before she could fully engage. Bondi remained composed. "That's an interesting way to start a conversation, Stephen. I took an oath to the Constitution, not to a political party. That's why I've spoken out when I've seen issues with election integrity. Any good prosecutor asks questions when processes don't seem right." "Processes don't seem right?" Colbert echoed, feigning disbelief. 60 court cases found no evidence of widespread fraud. Your guy lost, fair and square. Cheers followed. "If you'd let me finish," Bondi said evenly, her courtroom poise on display. "Those cases were dismissed on procedural grounds, most without examining evidence. But I'm happy to talk about what I came here for. The border crisis and fentanyl killing thousands of Americans." Colbert brushed her off. "We'll get to your talking points. I want to know how someone with your legal credentials ends up defending conspiracy theories." Laughter and scattered applause followed. The camera caught a brief flicker of irritation on Bondi's face before she regained her calm. "That's a serious accusation," she responded, "especially from someone who spent years promoting the Russian collusion narrative, debunked by the Mueller report. I'm not here to trade barbs, Stephen. I thought your audience deserved a real conversation." The studio grew quieter. Some audience members shifted in their seats, sensing this wasn't following the usual script, where Colbert easily dominated conservative guests with jokes and crowd support. Colbert adjusted his glasses, his smile tight. The Mueller report, that led to multiple indictments and convictions? That report? He looked to his audience, drawing mild applause. The same report that found no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, Bondi countered. But again, I'd rather focus on issues. Colbert, sensing his usual jabs weren't landing, changed course. Fine, he said. Let's talk about your recent work. You've been on networks claiming the Biden administration is deliberately failing at the border. Do you really believe there's some grand conspiracy to let in criminals? It's not a conspiracy when it's happening in plain sight, Bondi responded, her voice sharpening. I've been to the border. I've spoken with Border Patrol agents whose hands are tied by Washington's policies. This isn't partisan. It's a humanitarian and security crisis. Yet your solution is just build the wall and separate. Families, Colbert snapped, his tone rising. That's a straw man argument and you know it, Bondi replied, sitting straighter. No one advocates separating families. We want legal immigration and border security. The current situation helps no one. Not Americans, not legal immigrants, and not the people being trafficked by cartels. The studio tension grew. Colbert's rhythm faltered under Bondi's composure. He glanced at his notes, then pivoted to a more personal line of attack. You know what's interesting? He said, a mocking tone creeping in. You present yourself as this champion of law and order, but weren't you criticized for taking a $25,000 donation from Trump's foundation around the time your office decided not to pursue fraud cases against Trump University? Seems like a remarkable coincidence. A gasp swept through the audience, followed by applause. The camera zoomed in on Bondi, catching a flash of anger on her face. The studio fell briefly silent. Offstage, producers exchanged uneasy glances. This was usually when conservative guests lost their footing, but Bondi wasn't typical. She took a slow breath and locked eyes with Colbert. I've been waiting for you to go there, Stephen, she said, her voice cold steel wrapped in silk. Let me educate you and your audience on a few facts your researchers apparently missed. She held up one finger. First, the donation was to my political committee, not to me personally. A legal, transparent campaign contribution. Second, the decision not to pursue the Trump University case was made by career prosecutors before any donation and because New York was already handling the case. Leaning in slightly, she added, but here's what your audience might find interesting. While you imply corruption over a $25,000 legal donation, you've said nothing about the millions flowing to the Biden family from foreign sources. Where's your concern for ethics there, Stephen? The audience, previously cheering. Colbert's every line went quiet. Colbert shifted in his chair. We're not talking about Biden right now, he muttered, trying to redirect. No, we're talking about journalistic integrity and double standards, Bondi said, her confidence growing. You implied I violated my oath and questioned my ethics, but haven't held politicians you support to the same scrutiny. Your viewers deserve better than selective outrage. She reached into her portfolio and pulled out printed documents. Since you brought up Trump University, let's also discuss the Clinton Foundation, accepting millions from countries with horrific human rights records while Hillary was Secretary of State. I have the receipts. Would you like to review them? On air? Colbert's face flushed. Bondi wasn't dodging. She was attacking with facts and flipping the script. We'd need to verify those documents, he said, attempting to sound dismissive, but coming off evasive. They're from public records and mainstream media, Bondi said smoothly. The same standard you just applied to me. But I understand if you need time before holding Democrats to the same scrutiny as Republicans. The audience stirred uneasily. This wasn't the entertainment they'd come for. They were watching, their host being methodically challenged. Colbert tried to pivot. Let's get back to your current positions. You've been critical of the Justice Department. I'm happy to discuss that, Bondi interrupted, But I think your viewers noticed you just changed the subject when faced with inconvenient facts. That's the problem with our political discourse. We don't apply the same standards across the board. Off stage, a producer was signaling wildly, drawing a finger across his throat to cut the segment short. But Colbert, a veteran performer, knew ending it now would only make him look worse. "Fair enough," he said, though clearly reluctant. "You're saying there's a double standard, but you must admit the rhetoric from Trump and his supporters has been divisive." "Divisive like suggesting half the country is a threat to democracy?" Bondi asked. "Or calling political opponents enemies of the state? Those weren't Trump's words. They came from this administration," she continued, before Colbert could interject. "Americans are tired of the hypocrisy. They see inflation hurting their families, crime rising in cities, and a border crisis threatening communities. Yet instead of solutions, they get lectures, told their concerns are invalid or rooted in prejudice." The camera captured a few, audience members nodding in agreement, an unusual sight in Colbert's typically partisan crowd. Bondi finished with calm resolve. "The American people are smarter than the political elites give them credit for." "Give them credit," Bondi said, her voice now passionate but controlled. "They see when media personalities like yourself use your platform to mock one side while insulating the other from criticism. They notice when legitimate concerns are dismissed as conspiracy theories, only to be quietly acknowledged as true months later." Colbert, now visibly uncomfortable, glanced at his watch. "We're almost out of time." "Yes, conveniently," Bondi noted with a knowing smile. "But let me leave your viewers with this thought. You don't have to agree with me politically to recognize that a healthy democracy requires honest debate and consistent principles. When we demonize those we disagree with or apply different standards based on political affiliation, we all lose." The studio had fallen into a stunned silence. Even those who disagreed with Bondi's politics could recognize she had done something rare. She had come into hostile territory and not just survived, but commanded respect through preparation and poise. As the camera panned across the audience, their expressions told the story. Wide eyes, a few dropped jaws, and even some reluctant nods of acknowledgement. This wasn't the easy conservative takedown they had expected to witness and enjoy. Colbert, a consummate professional despite his obvious discomfort, knew he needed to end on a note that wouldn't make him appear completely defeated. "Well, Pam Bondi, you certainly came prepared tonight," he said, attempting to sound gracious, but coming across as strained. "I respect your audience enough to give them my best, Stephen," she replied with a smile that managed to be both warm and triumphant. "That's something I think we can all agree on. The American people deserve our best, regardless of politics." As the show cut to commercial, the studio audience sat in stunned silence for several seconds before breaking into uncertain applause. Some clapping enthusiastically, others reluctantly joining in. Whatever their politics, they had just witnessed something unprecedented. Stephen Colbert, master of his domain, had been outmaneuvered on his own stage. Within minutes of the segment airing on the East Coast, clips of Bondi's composed takedown of Colbert began flooding social media. The hashtag #BondiOwnsColbert shot to #1, trending nationwide, with conservatives celebrating what many called the most satisfying 5 minutes of television this year. A clip of Bondi saying, "Americans are tired of the hypocrisy," was shared over 50,000 times in the first hour alone. Conservative commentator Buck Stone tweeted, "Pam Bondi just gave a masterclass in how to handle hostile media, prepared, poised, and refused to be bullied. Take notes, Republicans." Even some liberal commentators acknowledged the unusual dynamic of the interview. Progressive journalist Glenn Greenwald tweeted, "Whatever your politics, what we just saw was rare. Someone going into the lion's den and turning the tables through sheer preparation and refusing to be intimidated. Media literacy means recognizing effective communication, even from those you disagree with." By morning, the impact was unmistakable. Fox News ran segments analyzing Bondi's performance, with one host declaring, "Last night, Pam Bondi did what conservative guests have failed to do for years. She came armed with facts, remained calm under pressure, and exposed the double standards of mainstream entertainment media. CNN reluctantly covered the viral moment, framing it as a contentious exchange that had conservatives celebrating, while their panel debated whether Colbert's team had inadequately prepared for Bondi's counteroffensive. The view counts on YouTube told the story. The official Late Show channel's clip of the interview was quickly becoming their most watched segment of the year, with the comment section filled with remarks like, "I don't even agree with her politics, but had to respect how she handled herself," and "Colbert wasn't ready for someone who wouldn't be intimidated." Meanwhile, in Late Show offices, an emergency meeting was called. Sources inside CBS later leaked that producers were reviewing their pre-interview research, protocols, and discussing how to handle guests who came over-prepared with counterattacks. One staffer reportedly said, "We've never had a guest turn the tables like that. It completely threw off the show's rhythm." Bondi's phone didn't stop ringing the next day. Interview requests poured in from every network, and her social media following increased by over 100,000 overnight. Conservative groups and campaigns began reaching out about speaking engagements, seeing her as someone who could effectively communicate their message even in hostile environments. 3 days after the interview, Donald Trump himself weighed in with a Truth Social post. Pam Bondi showed the world how to handle fake news. She's always been a fighter, smart, tough, and doesn't back down. We need more like her telling the truth about what's happening to our great country. Ripple effects extended beyond just one viral moment. Republican media training consultants began using clips from the interview as teaching examples. A GOP congressional candidate told Fox News, "I watched that exchange 5 times and took notes. That's exactly how we need to engage, not getting defensive, not getting angry, but turning the tables with facts and exposing the double standards." Democratic strategists privately expressed concern. One anonymous advisor told Politico, "If Republicans start sending out more Bondis and fewer easy targets, shows like Colbert's lose their effectiveness as friendly territory for our messaging. We've counted on those platforms to reach younger voters with our framing of issues." The following week, Colbert himself addressed the moment briefly at the start of his show. "Last week we had a spirited discussion with former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi that got quite a bit of attention. We stand by our questions, but we also believe in having guests with different perspectives. That's what makes America great. We can disagree without being disagreeable, most of the time." His attempt at humor fell flat. The audience's response was noticeably more muted than usual. Behind the scenes, bookers for late-night comedy shows began approaching conservative guests differently. One producer anonymously told the New York Post, "The Bondi effect is real. We're now asking ourselves, is this person going to be a Pam Bondi before booking? No one wants their host to end up in that position." For everyday Americans watching from home, the exchange represented something deeper than just politics. In an era of carefully controlled messaging and predictable media narratives, they had witnessed an authentic moment, a reminder that prepared conviction could still break through rehearsed talking points and laugh tracks. A month later, viewership data revealed an interesting pattern. While Colbert's ratings temporarily spiked due to curiosity about the viral moment, they subsequently dropped by nearly 15% among independent voters. Focus groups showed that some viewers, who had previously enjoyed the show's political commentary, now saw it differently. One participant remarked, "I can't unsee how he tried to dismiss her when she challenged him. It made me question how many other guests get that treatment when they don't fit the narrative." Pam Bondi used her newfound prominence to advance causes she cared about. Her appearances discussing border security and fentanyl trafficking began, reaching wider audiences, and she was increasingly invited to forums that had previously featured only progressive voices. When asked about the Colbert moment in later interviews, she consistently redirected, "That was just one night of television. I'm more concerned about the issues affecting American families every day." 6 months later, journalism schools were using the exchange as a case study in interview tactics and counter-tactics. A Columbia journalism professor told students, "Whatever, Your political leanings. This interview demonstrates why preparation matters and why challenging your own assumptions before an interview is essential. Bondi succeeded because she anticipated the attacks and had factual counterpoints ready. The legacy of that one interview extended far beyond a single viral moment. It became a template for effective communication across political divides, a warning to media personalities about the risks of underestimating their guests, and a reminder that in an age of carefully curated political theater, authentic exchanges still have the power to resonate with the American public. For Pam Bondi, the most significant impact wasn't the fame or the viral attention. It was proving that conservative voices could effectively challenge the prevailing narrative when equipped with facts, conviction, and unshakable composure. As she later told a group of law students at her alma mater, "The truth doesn't need anger or volume to be powerful. It just needs someone willing to speak it clearly, especially when it's not popular in the room." The nation had witnessed something rare in modern political discourse, a genuine moment of truth-telling that transcended partisan lines and reminded everyone that respectful but firm debate is still possible in America. If you found this breakdown of the Colbert-Bondi confrontation enlightening, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of the political moments mainstream media won't cover. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when we upload new content exposing media bias and celebrating those who stand up for truth, regardless of the consequences. Leave a comment below and let us know which other political showdowns you'd like us to explore next.